Why can I hear the light? It's okay. We've been here before. Carry on the light. They won't know it hurts more. It's okay. We've been here before. Carry on the light. They won't know it hurts more. It's okay. We've been here before. Carry on the light. They won't know it hurts more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HP Podcast, episode number 324. I'm Ben, and with me here today are the beautiful boys from downtown. Well, really, technically Brandon's uptown and Dave's across the border, but you get the point. Dave, let's start with you.
Across the border.
He's across the border. I'm not going to.
Don't let him back in.
Dave, you're always handsome, and this is the Handsome in a Podcast, so like it's a given that all of us are at least some level of handsomeness, but like you're going out to facial hair, and I'm kind of partial to you with facial hair. I'm kind of partial to facial hair in general, but you specifically. You got to be careful. You're going to look like the Chad meme soon.
Thank you. I hate it. So generally first of all, thank you for the compliment. But what happens is I'll wake up one morning and maybe I slept in and I don't feel like shaving, but I have to look presentable. So what I do is I quickly shave the undercarriage because that makes it look like a partially manicured facial hair.
You said undercarriage, and I just want to let you know, in case you're not aware, that can mean more than one thing when you're talking about shaving.
Okay, my neck and my like down here, because then I don't look like scruffy. So, and then I kind of look at myself, I'm like, I'm just going to leave it for a bit. And then, that turns into a couple weeks. The problem I have is I hit like the 2 or 3 week mark and the itchiness for me is unbearable. And I know that goes away, but I can never get over the hump. But I grew a beard once, like 6-7 years ago. Like it was thick. It's right before I went to Ireland. And I loved it. Like it was big and bushy, and it looked good. My concern now is I'm pretty sure this whole part here will not be entirely gray, but there's going to be a lot more gray in there.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I feel about that, but we'll see how long I make it. But again, I appreciate the compliments.
The gray coming out is not as bad of a thing to me because like I think salt and pepper hair looks cool in general. The bigger problem for me right now is that I've had a lot of facial hair or most of my face covered with facial hair since I was about 15. And I'm really afraid if I like were to shave now, like what's waiting for me under there? You know, like I know I've gained weight in the last 20 years, don't get me wrong. But what else could have happened? Like there's always the what if. And then what if that skin is it's been so like coddled by the beard for so many years that just the summer breeze bothers me. I can't risk it.
Right.
It's not worth it. Also, I like it. So, you know, whatever.
It's you. It's a part of you now.
I genuinely have thought about like, what if I shaved my head and trimmed my beard down to like nothing or got rid of it entirely? Would people recognize me at all? I hope not. Because I want to have a way out at some point, you know, of everything. Like, I don't want to leave this place, this world sooner than I'm supposed to, but I wouldn't mind disappearing from everybody's mind. That wouldn't bother me.
It would bother me.
As long as I could afford it. Would it bother you, Brandon? I appreciate that. How are you doing tonight, Brandon?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. A couple weeks ago, Brandon, you said you were going to the barbershop and you were going to come back looking different than we'd ever seen you before. And you do look different, but not different than I've ever seen you before.
Yeah, I mean it grows fast. It's been like a week or two.
I've seen you since then, though.
I keep saying I'm going to go shorter with this than I do. And to be fair, it's a lot shorter than it's ever been. It's at about half the length on my chin and the sides of my face. It's about half the length of my mustache right now, which is actually new for me altogether. I keep kind of chickening out because I want to go even shorter with the chin and the sides of the face. But then every time when they cut it and they're like, "Is it good or do you want more off?" I just say,
It's good.
we're good here. You know, so I think this is the second time that I've done the facial hair way shorter than the mustache.
Yeah.
And I keep inching ever closer. I don't ever want to be like full naked chin. I don't have nearly as strong of a chin as Dave. I wish I had half the strength of Dave's chin.
Yeah. All men do in such times.
And that's fine. It's okay. But I got to play to my head shape and my chin strength. And the beard, it's funny that David mentioned he doesn't like the beard. The beard is the male makeup. And Dave is so fucking handsome that he doesn't even need that shit.
That's right. But don't you agree it enhances his handsomeness?
I agree, but that it's like a beautiful. I want to say it's like a beautiful woman, okay, without makeup, and then you put makeup on her, and she's beautiful in a different way.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It makes 100% sense. I get it.
So what I'm saying is that Dave, I wish I was as handsome as Dave and half as Canadian, at least.
You're a little bit Mexican tonight wearing that Dos Equis shirt.
True.
I was not ready for this today.
This is the praise, Dave.
I am
praise,
up.
Dave.
Now, Brandon, I'm going to propose something here, and I know you're going to deny it.
I do.
No, it's not. Oh. It's not an accusation. I'm going to propose something, and I want you to at least think about it. You don't have to tell me you're thinking about it. You don't have to tell anybody you're thinking about it. But in the back of your mind, I want you to mull over this.
I'm ready.
Your beard looks nice and everything. I think, though, you're the perfect candidate for a Fu Manchu. I really do think that. Genuinely. The red, especially the red hair, brings it right out, man. I think you could pull it off.
I agree.
I feel like I would get... Are we talking about like Hulk Hogan levels?
Correct.
I would look like fucking... Wait, who's that wrestler? Chad, help me out here. Hulk Hogan, who's that wrestler?
I think you're thinking of Hulk Hogan, actually.
No. The Ginger.
Damn it. That's going to bother me.
Sheamus. Is his name Sheamus?
Yeah.
People have called me that at work. And he literally rocks that exact facial hair. So I can't. I have too much of a bearing resemblance. Sheamus, dude. Thank you, Hulk Hogan. Thank you. I knew you would know.
Can you remind me the famous portrait of the most glorious ginger, of you in the smoking jacket?
Yeah.
It was up on the wall in Ben's brewery.
It
What
was.
was your facial hair? That wasn't a full beard. You just had a mustache, or was it a full beard?
No. So back then, and this still is the case. My thickest facial hair is my mustache and my goatee. And back then, when my facial hair overall was less thick, it was still thicker there. So before, I would just do long sideburns, mustache,
Okay, yep.
goatee, no in between,
Right.
which I think would still suit me fairly well. But now that I can actually grow some on the sides, I've opted for that. But
Well, here's the thing. I want to clarify. You said Seamus, and Seamus has like pretty gnarly sideburns and beard. He just doesn't have the chin covered. What I'm expressing is that I think you would look really good with just the mustache where it wraps down, like a Fu Manchu, like it wraps down around the chin and it ends at the bottom of the chin. You don't have to let it drape off. And now,
Sure.
I know you've already told me no, and I knew you were going to tell me no, but I just want that little seed
I'm gonna think about
in
it.
your head.
That's a
I'm gonna think about
handlebar mustache, though, isn't it?
No,
That
no,
is-
no.
I think that's a handlebar mustache.
Because the
Doesn't
Fu
Hulk Hogan?
Manchu is the one that actually hangs down, right?
The Fu Manchu is like the wisps, right? Isn't
Okay,
it?
Yeah.
Isn't that just a handlebar mustache?
A
I thought
handlebar
the Fu
mustache typically gets stylized up though. It's not actually connected to your face down below. It's just like they'll grow it out and then run it down. I'm saying like the Fu Manchu, but you don't have to let it drape off the bottom of your chin.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. I like
I'll draw
this
you a picture.
proposition. I'll give it consideration.
Well, speaking of handlebar mustaches and Fu Manchus and all the rest, Hulk Hogan drops in from the top rope as normal with a $5 super chat and says, Handsome Phantomania needs to embrace the black and white hair of the New World Order because when you're New World Order for life, Jack. There we go.
Thank you, Hulk.
All right.
Yeah,
Legendary.
Edward, the Fu Manchu is common in Chinese martial arts films. Martial arts films are definitely a good place to see a Fu Manchu. I'm not saying you got to go that. I'm saying like a nice, thick, ginger Fu Manchu / handlebar mustache, whatever you want to call it. I think you're the perfect candidate.
I've done
agree.
that before, boys. I've done the little curl up on the sides. I have mustache wax.
I had a buddy
Yeah.
who did the handlebars, but he let them go all the way down to his nipples.
Jeez, you're joking.
No. I have proof. And yeah, he went all the way down. It was
That's the
pretty
most
ridiculous.
Canadian thing I've ever heard. I love that. I love that,
He's
dude.
a big old Canadian boy. He's about
I
6'5",
love
electrical worker.
Does he play hockey?
He did at one point in life.
I thought he might.
I think it's like, I know in Israel, like they have to join the military. They're required by law to do it. I think in Canada, you're required to play hockey at some point, right?
Pretty much. Yeah. It feels that way.
Socially.
Yeah. Well, this is the HP podcast. We talk about video games and men's facial hair or women's facial hair, whatever you're into. It's fine with us. You can head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/handsomephantom, where you can join a bunch of other people and help support us for as little as $1 a month. You get ad-free early access if you're on the audio versions. And of course, you can always catch us here live on Tuesday nights on YouTube. Links are in the description. If you're listening to the show, somehow I feel like you can find the link. Just look in the description. Just do it. You'll figure it out. But yeah, make sure to join us over there. We appreciate you all very much. And you can also join our Discord for totally free. No membership required, except for membership to the Discord, of course, by going to handsomephantom.com/Discord. We talk about all sorts of stuff. If it's about gaming, it's probably been discussed in there at some point. And I think that actually is the truth. I think probably pretty much anything you could talk about that has to do with gaming, we've discussed it. Maybe in positive or negative lights, furries, for instance, of one of the negative lights that we've discussed them. Why is gaming and furry stuff related so intricately?
I think because it's like a parasocial behavior.
Is it parasocial? What's it parasocial to?
Normal social behavior.
Let's be honest. A lot of people go to gaming to escape normal social behavior.
Yeah, that's fair.
So they go hand in
Exactly.
hand, right?
Yeah,
We all have our thing.
it's subculture, and a lot of subcultures intertwine.
Right.
That's a good way of putting it. The Fu Manchu subculture could suit you, Brendan.
True.
Is that a
Is there a
subculture?
subculture? Do they have meetups like Subaru owners clubs?
I think you
Manchu owners clubs?
you only get to find out about them if you have a Fu Manchu.
Dude, you only get accepted into our Fu Manchu if you submit a picture.
Yeah, sounds about right. Let's talk about some video games, I suppose, now that the facial hair segment is out of the way. Number one, we're getting a PS5 price hike, at least if you live in Europe, Australia, or New Zealand. Excuse me, I'm a little clogged up in the nose area tonight. If you go over to the PlayStation blog, you'll find an article that says, with a backdrop of challenging economic environment, including high inflation and fluctuating exchange rates, SIE has made the tough decision to raise the recommended retail price of the PlayStation 5 console in select markets in Europe, Middle East, and Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. The updated prices are effective April 14th as follows. Let's see. In Europe, 500 euros for the digital edition. All these are for digital editions. No, they're not. Digital edition in Europe, $500. Digital edition in the UK specifically, $429.99, so $430. In Australia, the PS5 with the Blu-ray disc drive, $829.95. The digital edition, $750. In New Zealand, drive-based one, $949.95. Digital edition, $859. Also, if you're somebody who has the digital edition and you want to just go ahead and get a disc drive, well, you're in luck because these prices are actually going down by a bit. Boys, what do you make of this? It's no surprise, really. They've already upped the prices once. But it's not maybe a surprise, but it is unprecedented. 2 price hikes, even if it's only in specific regions, is pretty uncommon outside of just like pure monetary like exchange rates, right? They're not only the exchange rates are not only changing, but the actual dollar or pound or currency amount is changing for these consoles in specific regions. What do you make of it, Davey?
I think inflation is a stubborn thing, and I think some of the world economic factors that are going into some of these decisions are also stubborn things, and they're things that don't really go away quickly. So I really wonder. I already own a PlayStation. A lot of the people that listen to the show own a PlayStation or multiple PlayStations. So I'm not really too worried about what this means for, the North American market or the larger Asian markets. Cause, I do suspect it's going to come here, but it more makes me think like, what does this actually mean for the next generation? We got to expect we're going to start to hear and see things within the next 3 years. And if you look at the Switch 2, then we've already started to see the next generation. And I really think that the big three need to start to think differently about how gaming and consoles are delivered, because all signs are pointing to the next PlayStation being extremely expensive. And the last time Sony had to release a console at a truly premium price with the PlayStation 3, it was not received well. And they spent half the generation trying to recoup lost ground. And they eventually got it, but it was a real uphill battle. So I'm starting to see Microsoft indicate that they are thinking a little bit differently about how we're going to play games, in the next 10 to 15 years. And I think the rest of the industry needs to kind of follow suit. Now, what that looks like, I don't know. I feel like we're starting to get ready to be properly prepared for streaming. So that could be one aspect of it. But the point is whatever technologies are going into these consoles are they're just going to be so expensive. And we talked about last week how inflation is driving the price of things, but wages haven't gone up. So, you can't just blame inflation and assume everybody's earning more money. And then, you throw into the fact that the PC market is so much more competitive than it was when the current generation launched. So I really think that the big three need to start thinking differently, because just trying to justify an $1,000 price tag on a new console, which it looks like we've kind of hit a fidelity ceiling, You can't just say it's bigger, better, faster, because it's with that price tag. Look at the way people are reacting to the Switch 2. So I'm really kind of looking ahead and wondering what this means for the next generation, because it's coming soon. It really is. So
Yeah, and I think it's important to note, like, part of inflation is wages. So the fact that wages haven't gone up are exacerbating inflation even more. And not only exacerbating those effects, not only driving the inflation, but also causing the burn from the inflation to be felt even more. Brandon, what do you think? You ready to shell out $1,000 for your PS6?
No. So I think Dave's right. We are really heading towards a larger and more expensive market as consoles begin to thin the line between what is capable on console and what is capable on PC. I think the companies are really going to have to consider what sort of benefit their product brings that will enhance the experience more than spending $100 or $200 more to not just get some sort of equivalent PC setup. Because at these price points, I mean, you can get pretty comparable things, if not more in some ways. Now, I understand there's a lot more peripherals. That's one of the drawbacks to PC. But really, I think as we start to blur the line in the price points of what makes sense for these consoles, the console makers are really going to have to stand out in such a way that it makes sense to do this sort of thing over PC, especially with the rise of PC period. Even with PC parts being as expensive as they are right now, the rise of PC is on a hefty incline. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I guess this is something that is not surprising with the way the world is going right now, but it is unprecedented, as you said before, Ben. And I feel like it's definitely something we need to take note of because I feel like we're going to keep seeing it, boys. If they're not afraid to up the price more than once in a single generation, this is going to continue to happen unless things drastically change in the world. And, well, I don't really see that happening. So, I don't know. This is more of a reason for me to convince somebody to buy a PC than ever. This trend that we're seeing, I was already on the train, right, for the PC build. But if I hadn't at this point switched over, I'm seeing all the evidence I need that it's going to keep getting worse.
Well, Brandon, first of all, I 100% agree with you. I'm on the PC train and have been there for many years, but PC is not immune to price hikes. Like, GPUs right now are astronomical. RAM went up insanely high a couple years ago.
Right.
Obviously, CPUs are not immune. So I don't know that you're totally immune, but I do think there are different factors. One, you're not beholden to one storefront. Two, you don't have, unless you want to play Mario, you don't have to worry about getting a secondary console. So there are factors, but I don't want to fool ourselves into thinking that we PC master race people are immune to market factors.
I guess what I'm saying is there's more options, and so you can easily buy something at a comparable price point and maybe even get more out of your money is what I'm saying. So really, right. The console makers, not that the PC is a better format, because by all means, the consoles are more practical for most people, and I would even agree with that as someone who plays on a PC. There's a lot of factors that are annoying about it as someone who has played on console forever. But what I'm saying is that as people are more hesitant with their money, you got to start selling them. And now that everything is coming day and date on Xbox to PC, and now that all of these PlayStation titles, if you don't care about early buy-in, it just keeps getting worse for any sort of exclusive reason to need these consoles and not just wait and get it on PC. So that's really what I'm saying, is that more of a future play. I don't know how they're going to differentiate themselves, because both of the big people, excluding Nintendo from this conversation, have said that exclusives really are probably not the way forward. Xbox has made that very clear, and PlayStation has made it clear that their stuff is exclusive for a little bit, right? And then it's not. So is it ever really exclusive? No, not really. It's just not here right now. So,
well, it's still console exclusive, but yeah, not if you count PC for sure.
right, exactly.
Dave, you mentioned that, or both of you mentioned that maybe console makers need to look at the different ways we're going to play games. And of course, there's been a lot of discussion in the last decade or two about streaming games and all that kind of stuff, and whether the infrastructure is there, who knows, whatever. That aside, another way is not only how we play games, but how we buy game consoles. And we started to see a little bit of this come into play with the last generation, or with the current generation with Xbox, where it wasn't just stores saying, hey, why don't we get you on a payment plan for your console? But it was Xbox themselves who said, we've got the all access thing. Buy a series, I think it was specifically Series S, that at least what I remember, could have been both. Buy a Series S, you get your Game Pass included. That means you have a whole library of games to play constantly. And you only pay us $35, $40, whatever it was. I think technically they did end up making a little money on it because of the financing, but all in all, it's a mostly digital market now. So if you've got a digital library or digital access to a rental library, essentially, then if you don't pay, they just take it away. And hey, just throw a low jack in it, just like put an anti-theft device in it if people aren't taking it. How do you feel about that? The idea that like maybe we just essentially finance our consoles through the manufacturer, thereby getting a better deal than 27% interest rate on a credit card. But at least we can buy them and get them, start playing them early on. I hate it, by the way, but I want to see what you guys think.
I looked at that as an idea and eventually shied away from it, just because I don't know. I like to avoid installment plans whenever I can, but I certainly see the merits. And when you look at the fact that you're going to pay $20 a month ish on Game Pass anyway, so why not throw an extra $10 on it? So you don't have to pay anything up front for your console, and you're just paying a little bit more for your subscription. And that kind of locks you into their ecosystem. So from a business perspective, it makes a lot of sense. I definitely think it harshes the blow, but when I look at some of the posturing that I've seen over the last little while, I feel like the question is being asked, why do you even need to buy a console? Because that's the big barrier right now. We have the subscription service, we have the ecosystem, we have instant access to thousands of games for one low monthly price, including day one exclusives. I'm not an Xbox show, by the way, but we'll get to that later. So I mean, if you could find a way to get people in your ecosystem and get that monthly fee, and it may even go up a little bit too, and not have to shell out $500, $600, $700 for the box, then why not? Because Microsoft has already lost that race. Like they can't sell consoles anymore because people just won't buy them. So how do you get people into your ecosystem without having to buy a box? That's the question I think needs to be answered, because that solves all these problems. Why would you even consider a PlayStation 6 when I get instant access to all the same games, or most of them, and I don't need to buy the box? So I don't know. I think it's a bigger conversation about that specifically. And that's where I think the next generation may actually be revolutionary when it comes to how we play games on a console. So.
Brandon, what do you think?
I don't know. I work with someone who does that. He did it with his Series X. He did the financing and has Game Pass just essentially with it for the length of him paying for it. I'm also of the mindset that it's not really good to finance anything unless you absolutely have to. And because the Xbox is such a luxury item, I would never recommend that to anybody. But as someone who has not had a lot of money before, I can understand how you might want to splurge on something like this to kind of get your fix, more or less. So, yeah, I mean, Dave said it. That's really like, that completely locks you into the ecosystem, and PlayStation just doesn't have anything like that. And it's been shown time after time that the Essentials collection, or whatever they're called now, still isn't really holding up to the snuff of the Game Pass. So I wouldn't be surprised if PlayStation comes out with something like this. I don't think they currently have something, but I also don't think that it would be very popular based off of the showing that they have for the games themselves. I'd really be interested to see how PlayStation continues to shift their model side by side with Game Pass, because it feels like they've kind of stagnated a bit, if you ask me. Not that they're not adding and taking away stuff all the time, but I really thought that when they added this essential service or premium service, that there would be a big push to try and almost like show up the neighbors, almost, you know what I mean? But I think they probably understand a lot of that market share is already snatched up, and that they're providing a product that's actually losing them money. And I don't think Sony wants to get in that deep, because they can see some issues with it out the gate. So, yeah, I mean, it's a cool way for you to be able to get a console early, but I would never recommend that to any of my friends and family personally. So
people in the chat are starting to point out that, does PlayStation necessarily need its own financing program? Because you can finance anything, whether it be from a credit card, a Best Buy credit card, or something like that. I do think that it's kind of smart for Microsoft to own or at least brand the financing program, because I do think that there's a different level of trust when it's coming directly from somebody like Microsoft. So I do think it's a really good approach from that perspective. But you guys are right. I mean, you can finance anything.
Well, and that's the difference, Dave. What I was alluding to earlier is that, if I put this on my Chase credit card, I wasn't exaggerating. Like, interest on a typical credit card is like over 20%, sometimes like 27, 28%. And, we all, hopefully, I mean, whatever you choose to do, but like, I have a credit card. I only spend on it what I like, bills that I would pay, whatever. I pay it off every month. I just rack up points and credit score and reap the benefits later. If you don't have the money for something, your furnace goes out, whatever, it's an essential, then yeah, do what you need to do. Like it's if it's a necessity. But I'm just so against financing things that you don't need or don't have the money for. The key difference here is, if PlayStation and Xbox say, we still want to have the same strategy, we still think that owning a console is valuable, we know we're going to make our money from you off of games and accessories and all that kind of stuff, then giving you the option to buy it from them, they've got the capital, giving you the option to buy it from them, maybe they're only charging a slight overage over what the console would cost if you just bought it outright, is not a bad deal, especially if you're getting a service like that lumped in with it. And that's where I think it takes some evaluating of the finances and having a little bit of smarts, where it's like, okay, well, again, I'm making up numbers here, so don't take this as gospel, but if the Xbox is going to cost me $300 and Game Pass is going to cost me $10 on top of that, and you're only going to charge me $35 a month, then you're only making a few bucks off me, not 27%. And I think that's the appealing part to the consoles, the Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo or whatever doing it themselves, versus putting it on your Visa and just worrying about it a different day. Because credit card debt is, like, obviously for many people a crippling thing. So I want to emphasize, I'm not encouraging that, and I'm not encouraging financing as a rule, but it is way more palatable to me to have the deal like the Microsoft All Access program, where you're paying a couple dollars extra, but it's still responsible, in my opinion. Let me say this: it's more responsible of the use of your finances if you can help it. So again, not encouraging it, but if you're going to finance it, that'd be the way I'd say to do it.
Pro move, in inverse thought and inverse opinion: get the highest credit limit you can. Spend that credit limit instantly. Cut up the card. Forget about it. Move.
Shave your beard. Cut your hair.
Just credit cards are like gift cards. Just think of it that way.
Once you spend everything on it, it's just, you're done.
Exactly.
You just toss
get
it out.
Fun reminders every now and then of how much you spent. So.
Rent at places that don't check your credit.
Yeah.
Edward Walton says Sony has had the PlayStation card for years, and they were doing 0% financing for the PlayStation Store and PS Direct as well. I used to have one. Yeah, there are some good deals out there, but I do want to note that most of the cards, the Sony card, the PlayStation card, whatever, the Xbox card, those two cards for sure are not backed by those companies. They're farmed out. They're branded, as Dave alluded to earlier. They're putting their name, they're working out a special deal where they get part of the interest. So like, yeah, a 0% financing is great. And if you can take 0% financing, spend somebody else's money anytime you can, as long as you know you're going to pay it off, you can pay it off. But most of the time, those cards, and this is not a finance podcast. Please don't take any of this as gospel. Talk with your financial advisor, whatever. But most of those cards have like very, very, very serious repercussions if you don't take care of it. Like, for instance, not only will you owe interest on money going forward, you owe back interest on stuff you already paid. So, like, especially when you get 0% financing. So just be smart. And if you don't know how to be smart, just don't finance things. That's my soapbox. You guys want to move on?
Yeah.
The marathon reveal happened this past week on a freaking Saturday. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. But let me just read this little blurb from the PlayStation blog. It says, what happened to the Ghost Colony on I don't even know how to say this, Tile City 4, and the infamous Marathon ship that started it all? Decades after the original Marathon trilogy, the Bungie development team is ready to dive back into the world in their upcoming team-based extraction shooter, Marathon. The game launches on PS5, Steam, and Xbox Series X and S. Interesting point. This is on the Sony blog, by the way, on September 23rd. Boys, I want to see what you guys thought of the Marathon reveal. Not only the actual game itself, but also the market factors around it, specifically that one I just mentioned. It's coming to Xbox, even though it's a Sony first party. Brandon, we'll start with you since we started with Dave last time.
Yeah. Very hyped, boys. Very hyped. I know this was being talked about prior to this happening. But I was pleased to see that we kind of got a little bit of a blowout. I don't want to say we learned everything about the game, but we got some extensive news. I think it's very smart that Sony is positioning itself with this game that has a hefty sum of potential of return with the microtransactions, to not kind of stinge it up with just PC and PlayStation. I think it's very smart of them to kind of branch out in this aspect. It is a little bit weird, as you mentioned, that we're getting this on the blog spot and that it wasn't just like mentioned other places on the internet, that it actually says this in the blog. In my opinion, I don't think it's bad. I think it's a good thing, but it's weird to me to see it like this. But yeah, boys, the game looks awesome. I've appreciated the art direction of this game for a minute, and to kind of see it in action and to know that, you know, a team that has honed the first-person shooter genre for over a decade, a couple decades, and had such success with something like Destiny, to know that some semblance of a team is working on this game is very, very, very interesting to me. I've watched a lot about it. I've watched a lot of people that have played it. I've signed up for the alpha. I'm ready. I'm not sold. You know, I'm pretty sure I'm going to buy it and I want to try it, but everything's green light for me right now. I'm not shining my name yet. You know what I mean? But I'm interested. I'm very, very interested. Is this the first? This is the first new game Bungie's put out since 2017?
Destiny 2.
I think that was 2017.
Sounds right.
So yeah, that's huge. I'm a huge Bungie fan. Not from as far back as, you know, some of my peers, but I've enjoyed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of Bungie games in the past 20 years, regardless of which ones I've played. And I've been a huge Destiny fan. So whatever they were going to put out next, I was going to be interested in no matter what. We don't know the price of this game yet. We're being told, at least this is the speculation that I've seen, that it's not a full price game. I would love for it to be in the $40 range, but it's also a game that will rely heavily on microtransactions. So I'm going to be interested to see how that's received and how the packaging of the microtransactions and the bundles are handled. But regardless, the gameplay looks tight. The gameplay looks tight, and even if it's not my favorite genre, the extraction shooter, I think that there's a lot of ground that can be covered. A lot of new things can be introduced into this genre because, in my opinion, it's still a relatively new genre. And there's a lot of creativity that can come about with something that doesn't have big boys like this working on it. Every other game isn't an extraction shooter. Every other game is a BR and a shooter, but not exactly this genre. So, yeah, I'm interested to see more. And I'm glad that it's going to be everywhere. I'm glad that it's going to be cross play. I'm glad that it's going to be cross save. Yeah, this is nothing but good for me. I'm really hyped, and I am a little bit of a slut for the first person shooter. So I'm interested to see what you guys think, because I feel like I'm a little bit biased as far as this goes, just because I'm always hyped for a new first person shooter. But Dave, what'd you think?
I don't know. I haven't really. I owe the extraction shooter subgenre a little bit more of my attention. The problem is when I think of extraction shooter, the first thing that comes to mind is Tarkov. And when I think of Tarkov, I think hardcore, steep learning curve, sweaty, very intense, things that I normally shy away from in my twilight years of gaming.
Twilight years.
I think if, as you've kind of alluded to, Brandon, like this is a growing genre, and I think there is probably room now for more accessible extraction shooters. Because the other extraction shooter that I was interested in for a little while was Hunt, but the more I saw of Hunt, the more I realized that I'm just gonna get destroyed in this game and not gonna have a good time. And maybe that wouldn't be the case, but I don't know if Concord is going to be the accessible one, but if it's at least a bit less intense than Tarkov, then I think it's probably worth a look.
Did you mean Marathon?
Marathon. What did I say? Concord?
You said
RIP.
Concord.
Yeah, okay. Because that gets into my next thought. Because there's been a lot of talk about, or I see a lot of people trying to compare this to Concord, and I think a lot of it is just trolly people on the internet. But I think the key difference between Concord and Marathon is we don't really need to be sold on a shooter from Bungie. Like, Bungie is one of the best in the business when it comes to first-person shooting mechanics, so they're on the front foot there. I understand that Concord had some pedigree, but what I've come to realize is that just because you have some pedigree in a game, i.e., so-and-so random person who worked on this other game that was really good, just because you pulled them into your studio, I don't think that really translates into goodwill when it comes to the gaming industry. When it's coming directly from the development studio that is known for such great games as, that Bungie's produced, then I think Marathon is going to it's going to have a success out of the gate, and I think they're doing things well. They're having an alpha way in advance of the actual launch, so they actually have time to act on feedback. And yeah, so I'm interested. I don't know if I'll be there. Derek O pointed out in chat that it's coming out pretty much the same time as Borderlands. The only other thing that's kind of getting me about this game is I inevitably kind of play these kind of games solo. And based on what I heard from SkillUp's preview, is it's not really conducive to a solo experience, in that if you aren't playing with people mic'd up, then you're not going to have a great time. So I'll be watching that a little bit more closely, but yeah, I don't know. I think it looks great. I agree. The art direction of the game is really cool. It sets it apart. So yeah, I'm curious to see how this game goes, and I hope it succeeds, because I want to see Sony get one here with this live service experiment they're doing.
Yeah, it looks good to me as well. I wanna try to. I'm trying to get. I signed up for the alpha as well. I'd like to be able to get in and actually try it out myself to see how it feels. But it looks pretty cool, and it looks like it's doing enough unique things to set it apart from other extraction shooters. That's really good. So I don't know that I have a lot to add to what Brandon said specifically, because you echoed a lot of my. Or you didn't echo it. I'm echoing a lot of your thoughts about the game and the genre and Bungie and everything, all inclusive of that. So yeah, I think it's going to be pretty cool. It's yet to be seen. The price point, I wouldn't expect to know a price point this far out. Like, it's 6 months out. That's not uncommon that we wouldn't know price point. But I think they did say, they replied to somebody's tweet. I think it was Wario's tweet. They were like, it's not a full price game. It is a premium game, meaning it costs money, plus live service elements, but it's not going to be a full price game. Dave, I will say, not for your benefit necessarily, but for everybody else's, Hunt Showdown is now on not only Xbox Game Pass but PC Game Pass. So if anybody's got Game Pass and you're thinking about checking it out, it's the best 8-year-old game I can recommend. I don't know if that's true. The best 8-year-old extraction shooter.
8 years old?
It's either 7 or 8 years old. Yeah.
Wow.
It came out in 2018, so 7.
It got updated.
Still going strong, baby. Just got added to Game Pass too, so it's just going to keep kicking it up.
Yeah. What I will say, one more thing, Dave. Teams of 3. When I look at my screen, guess what I see?
3 amigos. I like it.
3 guys right here. The handsome Phantom squad could squad up in Marathon. That's all I'm saying.
Also, Dave, you talk about extraction shooters more than anyone else on this show.
That's not true.
Deep Rock Galactic. That's an extraction shooter. It is absolutely.
That's Deep Rock Galactic.
It's not PvP extraction shooter, but it is an extraction shooter.
Do you think an extraction shooter has to be PvPvE?
No.
No. Okay.
I don't think it has to be. I think most of them are because
Deep Rock Galactic is in a league of its own. Nobody touches it. It's just rock and stone, brother.
Radic asked, and I'm sure this is going to be a troll question. As soon as I saw his name, I knew it would be. Let me see. Do you think it being different from the original Marathon impacts it at all, or only old people care about that? This is a troll question, but also there's a good point in here. This is attached to the old Marathon name from Bungie. Do you think it helps or hurts it? One, nobody knows. Nobody really, the big nobody, knows what old Marathon is. But is it at all helpful to the game to be a continuation of a decades-old franchise?
Not this one specifically.
Yeah.
I think it creates an opportunity for Bungie to slightly remaster the original game and repackage it and make some money there, but it doesn't bring any goodwill. The Bungie name does, and that's more than enough, but Marathon, no.
Yeah. Well, the reality is, even if I try the beta or the alpha or whatever, and I absolutely detest it, I'm probably still going to play this game, at least to try it out when it comes out. So
I don't think it's possible that it's going to be awful. I feel like they'll probably will be like, this isn't any different than any extraction shooter. This has egregious microtransactions, but it's going to look good and play good because we've literally seen the way it looks and it's Bungie's gunplay. So like that as a minimum says to me that this is going to have some sort of audience, even if it falls off quick. Like those two factors alone. And even a third factor, the fact that exclude the gunplay, the fact that it's Bungie at all will give it an audience, will give it legs to begin with. So
absolutely,
period. So
yeah, all the cross marketing they can do with it too is just
Oh, dude, you're gonna have fucking Destiny 2 marathon ornaments and like I don't know. I think they also have to vary slightly, even though it's a completely separate experience. I would be kind of interested how PvE stats kind of fall off. After in Destiny 2, after the release of Marathon, and they don't want to cannibalize their own audience, even though it's a very different experience. You think about something like Warzone. Whenever the new Warzone comes out, right? Verdansk just dropped. What was the player loss in Black Ops 6? That would be like a similar equivalent to me.
Yeah, for sure. Although maybe it's a little different because that was Verdansk. But I get your point.
You know what I mean, though.
Benji says, genuinely the only person I've heard make that complaint, I think he was talking about Marathon equivalency for the names, is Hogue. I love Hogue, and he's a dear soul and a good man and a smart man. But if Hogue says he doesn't like a game or that he likes a game that I'm looking forward to, I get disappointed because Hogue and I cannot be more different on our games and media taste. But he's a great guy otherwise. Or including that. I'm not saying he's not a great guy because of his takes. I just disagree with them.
We get what you mean.
Yeah. All right. Former Nintendo PR explains why Switch games rarely go on sale. This comes from Tech for Gamers. And it says, a former Nintendo employee has explained that the company doesn't put its games on sale because it respects the value of its products. Even if a game becomes a few years old, Nintendo mostly keeps the original MSRP, unlike other companies that slash the prices when it's been a specific time since the title was released. Speaking in their podcast channel, Kit and Krista, former Nintendo PR managers, stated that the main mantra Nintendo has is that it respects the value, therefore the games don't go as often on sales as other companies do. They also threw in slight shade at Ubisoft, saying that Nintendo isn't Ubisoft, where you don't buy the game at launch and wait a month for it to go on sale. So generally, Nintendo's audience doesn't wait to purchase the games later because they know the prices won't change. Brandon, I'm going to let you have the first laugh here, or the first discussion here, because I hear you laughing.
Yeah. I literally instantly thought of Ubisoft before you even read that last little bit there. Um, it is kind of throwing strays in the dark. I don't know. It's just like we value what the fuck we sell, and so if you do this, you clearly don't value what you sell.
To be clear, these are not current Nintendo employees or representing Nintendo necessarily.
Yeah, but like you work at a company and you get some dirt, and then you don't work at the company anymore. Is that dirt untrue?
I'm with you. I'm just
You know what I mean?
clarifying for all the lawyers out there. If Hogue hears I trashed his takes, his media takes, and comes in here.
True. But yeah, this is something we've talked about on the show a lot, how, the Nintendo, if you ever manage to see like a distributor sale on a Nintendo game that's not from Nintendo, it's like Walmart has it on sale or Best Buy, take it. Because the reality is it's not going to do that very often, if ever. So,
yeah.
Honestly, they're kind of saying it with their chest, boys. They're kind of standing 10 toes down here. And honestly, I kind of respect it. I kind of respect it because Nintendo says we have a good product and we know you're going to buy it anyway. And so we're not changing the price. Could they maybe make more money in the long run? Because it's Nintendo, I'd say no. They're making more money by just holding out. But any other company probably couldn't do this. Yeah, I respect it, honestly. I don't like it, but I do respect that Nintendo says, put some goddamn respect on my name.
Dave, what do you think? I know you're a most recent convert to hating Nintendo.
Chill? Or wait.
Anti-chill.
So I'm going to say this objectively because I'm trying to be objective about this, but I think it's important to note, as Ben did, that this is coming from a former Nintendo employee, because I think the important thing that this outlines here is two very different pricing strategies and pricing methodologies that both work really, really well. Do you know how many units Assassin's Creed Valhalla, the worst of the RPG series, has sold? Do you know how much money that has made Ubisoft? I don't know the exact number, but it's in the billions probably. Maybe not billions, but it sold a lot. So the point is even if consumers have been conditioned to know that if they just wait a couple months, that they're still the price of the game is going to drop, Ubisoft is still going to make a boatload of money because people are buying their games for a long time. So that works. But perceived value is a thing. And perceived value is when people look past the price tag to other things as a way to understand if something is worth buying or not. And I think the first two things that people look at is the quality of the product and the goodwill that the company has. Those are two things that Nintendo is really, really good at doing. So Nintendo has done the work in a way that they can get away with this. And they can put a game out for $70 and 3 years later, it's the exact same price. And it will still be immensely profitable for them because Nintendo has worked hard to do that. So I think it's important to point out that what Nintendo does and what Ubisoft does both work mutually exclusive for the two companies because, just who they are as companies that it works. But I have no issue with either of those two strategies. I like Nintendo's approach because I know what I'm getting is a really good product. And until they change that in my head, I'm going to keep buying their games because I know even though it's $70 and it's not going to come down in price, I'm going to feel like I got my money's worth for that. And I think that's the general sentiment when it comes to Nintendo. So this works for them. That's okay. But, if you don't want to pay the money, then there's companies like Ubisoft who will charge you only $20 for a game that you can spend 200 hours in. So
right.
There you go.
Yeah, it's definitely a strategy in the industry, and this is from indie to AAA, to not only reduce the price of your game, but to place it on sale pretty frequently. And that makes a lot of money over time, but none of those companies are Nintendo. And Nintendo doesn't have to do that. And I'll tell you what, I am not someone who loves to go out and spend a bunch of money, but if a Nintendo game comes out, if a Mario game, Zelda game, Splatoon even, whatever comes out, and I even have like the slightest desire to get it, I just know there's no point in waiting. Like the only reason to wait is if I just don't have time right now. And even then, sometimes I'll just buy it and hold on to it because maybe you find a crazy deal. Maybe, you know, the Home Shopping Network has it on their website, or you find a used copy in a game store on eBay or whatever. But like by and large, unless I'm gonna wait around for some crazy deal that Nintendo decides to take, or I'm sorry, Walmart decides to take, you know, a cut on their profits from the game. If I buy it now or I buy it in a year, it's going to be the same price. And there is some relative, like, assuredness, whatever the right word is there. Like, there's some, if I buy a Nintendo game, if I buy Mario Wonder at $70, I know Nintendo's not going to sell it for less than $70 for at least a few years, if not longer. And so for me, that makes me feel like I got a deal. Like I didn't get a deal. I just didn't have to wait. I didn't have to think about, do I want to buy that game for months like I do a lot of other stuff? Because I just know that, like, I either buy it now or I don't buy it. Like, what's the point in waiting? Money's only getting less valuable. So I will say that's a strategy for sure. But then you do have other companies that take a different approach, and I don't begrudge them that, and they make less money per unit down the line, but they're still making plenty of money. They're getting by. When I worked for Lilymo, we had like a public kind of I don't know, not mantra, but like we kind of told people, like, you should buy our game when it comes out because we're not going to put it on sale for at least 6 months, if not a year. And the reason for that was so that people knew that you either if you want to play this game now, don't bother waiting a couple weeks or a couple months. Just buy it now for this price. I think that is a good policy to have for the people who know who you are. It's not as great of a policy for people who don't know who you are. But it's also a great policy if people do know who you are and you have Mario. You know, if you spent 35 years developing an IP and you know people want it, then why ever let them question the idea of, should I just buy it now when it comes out? And you see Nintendo games, they do continue to rise in how many units they've sold over years. But that first year number is usually like, or the first month number is like the peak. Like, you're already getting millions and millions of units sold of their big games because everybody knows. You just go and you buy them. And whether that's good or bad, I don't know. I don't know if it's either, or if it's just a fact, but it works. I'll tell you that much. Edward says, I respect Nintendo for holding those prices. Breath of the Wild is still a $60 product since 2017, about to be $70 with the Switch 2 edition. It will be $70 with the Switch 2 edition, but it's not the same exact product. It's a little bit improved. Whether that's worth it to you or not is your decision, I guess. It's not to me because I already have it and I've played it. I'm not going to play it again. Any other thoughts on Nintendo being greedy bastards? No, I'm just kidding. I love Nintendo.
Oh, I have a couple.
Oh, I figured you would. Man, I can rag on any gaming company. I can find more reasons to rag on Nintendo than anybody else. But if you told me right now, of your Xbox, your PlayStation, or your Nintendo, you have to get rid of, you can only keep one for the rest of your life, it's Nintendo. It just is. Just is. This is the next story is the one we've all been waiting for. Skull and Bones.
Woo.
We're going to talk a little bit about Skull and Bones, but we're going to talk more about the larger industry here as well. Dave, I'm going to read this and I'm going to kick it off to you and let you lead the next part of the discussion, mostly because I am so clogged up, I'm having a hard time talking. This comes from PC Games N, and it says, Skull and Bones just unveiled its year 2 roadmap, and it actually looks great. That's according to this author. While fortunes have improved a little bit for Ubisoft since the successful launch of Assassin's Creed Shadows, there's no escaping the fact that it was on a torrid run before that. One of several underperforming projects during that rough patch was the co-op pirate game Skull and Bones. Designed to rival the beloved Sea of Thieves, it fell horrendously short at launch. Amazingly, though, it's still plowing on. What's even more amazing is that it's just seen its year 2 roadmap, and it looks genuinely impressive. With extremely disappointing critic scores... let me skip that. Reports emerged claiming it would get a second year of support. Imagine my complete astonishment today because those reports turned out to be true, and year 2 of Skull and Bones actually looks great. Due to my already busy schedule of live service game... Okay, this guy commentates too much. Sorry. Skull and Bones Year 2 Season 1 launches today. It offers a new encounter with a mega fort, a big fortress that's well defended. It also offers a new ship that's bigger than anything that's come before it. And that's going to have more stuff. Dave, I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time reading and talking. You're the Skull and Bones lover here. I've got my copy that I got for $10 sitting right next to me that I have not played since you said, I bet you don't play that for more than an hour. And you were correct so far. But take it away.
Yeah, this seems to have caught a lot of people by surprise, and I can't really blame anybody if Ubisoft, issues a one pager of what support was going to look like in the second year of this game's life, and it just had a couple of cosmetic things here and a little few quality of life things there, then I would have been like, okay, they're going to keep the servers live, so that's all I really expected. But this is significant content, and they have supported this game throughout year one with significant content. Lots of events, lots of new additions, everything free if you own the game, and you could have bought this game pretty cheap after it came out. So I think this is great to see. This game has a small but passionate fan base who have been playing the game since it came out. And this kind of goes back to Ubisoft's strategy is even if we stumble out of the gate, we can drop the price and continue to get people through the door by removing that price barrier. And this has seemingly worked for Skull and Bones. The reason why I wanted to talk about this is because it's an interesting strategy, again, that Ubisoft has when it comes to supporting their games. And again, games that are perceived to have stumbled out of the gate a little bit. We've just recently come off things like Concord that was shut down after 2 weeks. Things like Suicide Squad, Multiverses recently. Games that, I guess you could say they had a fair chance, but were taken out to pasture fairly quickly. But on the other side, you look at something, a company like Ubisoft, and I think of games like Skull and Bones. I think of games like For Honor. I even think of games like Division, which is still going really strong. Rainbow Six Siege is, that one's, it didn't have a good launch, but it's blossomed into what it has been. And I think, there's kind of a spectrum. And on the far end of the shitty side of the spectrum, you have Concord. And on the far end of the awesome side of the spectrum, you have No Man's Sky. And then Ubisoft's games all kind of fall, a little bit more towards No Man's Sky in terms of how they're supported. And I don't necessarily think that Ubisoft is trying to get these massive redemption stories out of these games, but if they're doing anything, they're building consumer confidence, because I know that they're going to support these games. Like For Honor for me it blows me away. I completely forgot about that game, but you look into it a little bit and it has a decent fan base that is really supporting this game. I wonder how Ubisoft funds its projects, because I have to imagine that there are many companies, there are many developers that amortize their projects over many years. And the idea is they're going to pay for the project over, a 5 or 10 year cycle. And then any revenue earned against that game is just kind of works to take down the cost. But when it comes to Ubisoft, I wonder if they pay for everything up front and then any revenue gained post-launch is just bonus. It's found money. They have the capital to do that sort of thing. So in any case, I think what they're doing with the way they support their games is a great thing, because even if they have small populations, and just looking at Skull and Bones Steam charts, they were sitting at around under 200 players concurrent fairly consistently, and then it doubled yesterday to almost 500 players. Granted, this game is played probably more on console than it is on Steam, but the point is people notice. And Benji in chat just said he bought the game today because it's cheap and Ubisoft is supporting it. A lot of people see that stuff and it ultimately works out. So I'll just reiterate, this is a good game. I had a great time with it. I got the platinum. It's cheap. It's worth a look. It's a different kind of open world game than you've played in a long time. So good for Ubisoft. Good for them. Brandon, are you buying?
No. But I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about another game that Ubisoft recently put to pasture when it was kind of premature. And I think about a game like X Defiant. I wonder if the reason that they don't sink something like this, no pun intended, is that the competition is less steep. I think of games that are direct competition to a game like this only by way of it being piratey. And I think of a game like Sea of Thieves. I think they kind of look at something like that and look of maybe ground that they can make up. Am I wrong in saying that Sea of Thieves is in a bit of a lull and losing players, Ben?
Mm, I don't think you're wrong in saying that, but I think it's a much different way.
Right. But I guess what I'm saying is that I was seeing similar numbers when X Defiant went under. And albeit we don't have the stats for console, so maybe the stats were just as abysmal everywhere else as well. But what I'm saying is that Ubisoft must see something in this game that they weren't seeing in X Defiant, because we have a 1-to-1 here. I mean, they're both Ubisoft. That's the direct comparison we have, other than them being completely different games. So that's what I think about when I think about them continuing to support this. I know that X Defiant was supported for, was it about a year? Like a year and a half, maybe? Were they on their second year, I think?
Barely.
So that's kind of an interesting note for me. I'm obviously happy to see that, you know, they're taking care of the people that have bought the game. I think that's always good. I hate to see, you know, games that have fan bases that kind of get squashed by the chains of big business. But clearly there's something we're not seeing in the back end, or maybe they had a contractual obligation from the government that they helped use the game, that they had to make stuff for so long. So,
Good point.
what government was that?
Singapore.
So that's my other thing, is maybe that has something to do with it. I do not want to disregard that this is a very good thing for the community and that it will bring people in some capacity. But I really wonder if it will be enough.
Yeah. Yeah. As Dave said, there's definitely a lot of people who enjoyed the game, but it just didn't have that hook to keep people coming back. And I think, let me say this again. It's not just that it didn't have the hook to keep people coming back. It didn't do well at all at launch. Like, it sold, you know, way less than 1 million copies at launch. Some crazy motorcycle or car or something outside. And that's fine, because I guarantee it has continued to sell many, many thousands of copies at lower prices, but after the fact. But by all accounts, like, most people I know who played this game enjoyed it. And there's something to be said for making a game that underperforms, but is still enjoyable, because there are a lot of them that just don't see the right light. Why this game specifically didn't hit, I don't know. I really don't, because, I mean, one, I didn't play it in its entirety myself. But two, it just, it seemed to have all the right components and just didn't hit in the same way it should have. And I really do think a lot of it was just due to how long it was in development. If this game had been announced a year before it released, and it came out and it was the exact same game, but it had less hype time, or less time to lose hype, I really think this game would have sold more copies. I can't statistically back that up or anything, but that's what lost me over the years. Like, when I first saw it back in like 2017 or 18, I was like, oh, it looks pretty cool. I'm in for it. And then by the time it came out, there was just so much, you know, discouragement around it, that the only thing I was willing to do was spend $10 on the special edition, the limited edition from Best Buy, including free shipping, by the way. Like 6 months after the game came out, they still had limited editions, day one limited editions at Best Buy. So I don't know. It's a case study that will be seen, that will be studied for a long time.
You know how like Chibi Robo is like a $300 game now on GameCube? That's what that Skull and Bones.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
You think so?
Robos.
They're going to be throwing them away, and then one day.
Yeah.
You don't think there's you don't think they printed enough that they're still just laying around in stores, Dave?
No.
Okay. I didn't really get around to your point, though, Dave. Post-launch support is so important, and for people who bought this game at launch and stuck around for some more and loved it and stuck around for more content, they're going to remember that, regardless of the reason, whether it was because they wanted to or because the Singaporean government made them in order to keep their money, they supported this game, and that engenders a lot of goodwill towards future releases from not only the studio, but from Ubisoft as a whole, I think. And that matters a lot, especially now with so many games struggling for your time. That matters a lot, in my opinion.
I love the Ubisoft love in this show.
That's right. I love love.
Ubisoft and my beard getting a lot of love today. It's good.
Lots of love, dude. Dave's two favorite things.
And that's the end of the news. Let's talk about what we've been playing. I'm going to go first because mine's really not that interesting. I've been playing a lot of Hunt. Look out, boys. I'm about 2/3 of the way done through Prestige 8. I've only got to get to Prestige 10 by the end of the year. And that's a resolution / challenge done. But anyway, I love Hunt. I've been playing a lot with my buddy Jimmy, and the new events going on right now. There's nothing really that special about it other than that it gives you an opportunity to dive in and take advantage of some different special features. I've continued to play Schedule 1, albeit everyone else has abandoned me. I've been selling drugs by myself, building my own empire, and I'm loving that. It really is just a chill, relaxing game. Even though you're selling the most insane different mixes of illicit drugs, it's a lot of fun. And then I don't know if I talked about this last week or not. I picked up Ready or Not because Brandon and Dustin and Jimmy were playing it, and checked it out for a couple nights. And it's a lot of fun. It's a very like hardcore. I want to say realism, but it's not. Obviously it's not realism, but it's as real as you can get in a video game. It seems like, where you're just going in and acting as a SWAT team, taking out bad guys and hostile people and stuff. So I'm enjoying it. It's not by any means new. It's just new to me. But I don't have a whole lot more to say about it other than the fact that it's pretty cool, and there seems to be a lot of content there, right? And I think I bought it for $25. And for, I'm coming in a year late, but the stuff that I'm playing was there at launch, and it all seems to be really solid so far. Dave, take her away.
I don't know which game. I'm going to talk about Avowed first. So I there's a couple games that have come out in the past year that I've really wanted to get into. There was, I was waiting around for Dragon Age for a little bit, and that came and went, and Avowed was another one I was thinking about. And then late last week we got an announcement that we're getting an exclusive The Outer Worlds 2 show in June. I think it's around Summer Games Fest. I love The Outer Worlds. So I immediately thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to play Avowed. So I started up Avowed. I'm about 7-8 hours in, and I'm having a really good time with this game. It's definitely got Obsidian's personality and style in it. It doesn't quite have the same sense of humor that The Outer Worlds does, but it definitely is not. It definitely has a lot of silly things happening in it. It's a very pretty game. The art direction here is on point. Anyone who's seen just a single screenshot of this game knows just how bright and vibrant it is, and I think that does a lot to set it apart as kind of a medieval kind of Dungeons and Dragons style RPG. I know nothing about Pillars of Eternity, but that doesn't matter because this game does it does a really good job of focusing its lore on the story that's in front of you. It also does something really cool, and I think maybe some other games have done this, but when you're talking with when you're having conversations, of which there are tons in this game, you can hit X anytime and you can pull up like an encyclopedia of anything that's referenced in your conversation. So if they talk about like an event or a place or a person, you can just hit X and it just pulls it up and it gives you a reminder of who that person or who that thing is. So I think that's really handy, especially in a game like this where you may not know much about the lore of Pillars of Eternity. So yeah, I think something that's interesting about this game is it really leans into its weapon upgrading system. It has a pretty steep learning curve early on where the game is very blatant in telling you that if you have not upgraded your gear or acquired better gear, you're going to have a hard time. So it pushes you towards its tier upgrading system. So you'll get either common or unique weapons. You find a few fairly early on, and basically you can upgrade them to improve their quality from unique to, or sorry, from common to fine, which is basically, from no color to like blue and then blue to like purple or whatever. And it's a really cool way to get you kind of attached to gear, because I think some of the problems I've had with these games is, you use something for one fight and then you find something better and you're constantly recycling gear and you never really feel like you're getting used to a weapon. Whereas with Avowed, I think it really pushes you to find a weapon or a couple weapons you really like and commit to them, and you can upgrade something from common all the way through to the highest tier. And I like that about the game. So it's got some really cool systems there. One thing I absolutely have to point out, this is not a something I dislike about the game, but I did really notice it. The story setup for this game is almost identical to oh my god, I'm gonna forget the name of it. The RPG from Spiders. No, I can't believe I'm forgetting this. The game I played, the sequel recently came out. Anyways, I'll remember it. But it's the story setup is almost identical. Like you're kind of this Greedfall, that's it. So you're this delegate from like the mainland and you're going to this island and there's this plague that's taken over the island and it causes stuff to grow to people's faces. Identical to Greedfall. And I'm not saying that, the people at Obsidian stole this idea, but it's just, I couldn't help but notice that. Anyways, I'm really enjoying my time and I'm really attached to my companions. I love the banter that you get into in your little camps that you set up, and you listen to kind of the relationships that your companions have with each other in a pre-existing way, and it's cool to see. So your main character is not voiced. I didn't like that, but again, there's more than enough that you're hearing from NPCs and companions, and this is the kind of game I'm probably going to be playing for at least 30 hours. So I'll be happy to provide more updates as I move through it, but I'm having a good time so far. The other game I've been playing is South of Midnight. Can you tell I signed up for Game Pass? South of Midnight. It's a lot of people are talking about it right now. It's this is a very good game. I'm having a great time with it, but I want to be clear about something. This game is very thin when it comes to gameplay. It's very derivative. There's the combat is dodge, attack, couple of special abilities. There's some light platforming. That's your basic, jump, double jump, glide, grapple, that kind of stuff. Like from a purely gameplay perspective, it does nothing original. And the other thing I'll say is I'm a little bit over halfway through the game, and I have noticed that chapters 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 all follow the exact same gameplay loop. Spawn into an area, collect 4 different things, and every time you have a combat encounter to collect the thing, you get a little bit of story snippet, and then you have a chase sequence. Like, all those chapters follow the exact same formula. And, I think there's 14 chapters, and if this persists throughout the rest of the game, I'm going to be a little bit disappointed because it's starting to wear. But what I will say is the characters in this game are absolutely fantastic. The story is very, very engrossing. There's some very dramatic and touching things that the story covers that actually kind of shook me a little bit. The music in this game is absolutely top tier. It nails the kind of swampy Louisiana Creole feel that it's going for. There's a lot of original music that kind of syncs up with the narrative that you're seeing on screen, which I think is really, really cool. Voice acting is just top notch. Like if you're interested in jumping into a game that maybe you can shut off to a little bit from a gameplay perspective and just see a really, really great story, that's what I'm getting so far with South of Midnight. I wouldn't purchase this game, but if you have Game Pass, then I think it's definitely worth checking out. It's a little bit slow to start, but again, once the story really gets going, it hooks you. So I'm interested to see if the gameplay can evolve at all. Don't have high hopes, but I think the story is enough to kind of keep me going. Visually, obviously, it's in a league of its own. It's a completely different art style than we've seen, and I think it does that really, really well. I don't know if the Game Awards has an award for best supporting actor or best supporting character in a game, but if they do or ever did, then Catfish is my vote. You've probably seen him in the trailers, but he's such a cool character, really well voice acted, and he really kind of grounds Hazel, the main character, in an interesting and folksy way. So yeah, I'm really enjoying South of Midnight despite how thin it is from a gameplay perspective. So yeah.
I watched someone play this for a few minutes and I was like, that looks cool, but everything I've seen from other people is like, yeah, it's cool, but it's the same thing a million times. But if you end up really loving it and putting it in your, top whatever list of the year, maybe I'll check it out sometime.
Sure.
Brandon, what do you got?
Nothing too interesting. I was streaming for a little bit the other day, and I popped into Titanfall 2 finally. I've never played it on PC. I will say that I feel like I've lost a little bit of my first-person legs. I kind of want to go back and kind of hone that a little bit. I felt sort of inept playing it on stream. But the game's awesome. One of the best first-person shooters that's ever been made, especially story-wise. Gameplay's tight, too. I don't have anything profound to say other than that. And I played a little bit of Rivals. This game's still good. Honestly, I'm kind of a little bit worn on the genre a little bit. I hate feeling like I have to sweat so much, but there's something in me that just wants to like win so bad every time that it becomes a non-relaxing experience for me every single time I do it. So it's fine. I've had a busy week. I haven't played as much games as I would have liked to, but yeah, that's really about it.
Brandon, can you explain something to me?
Sure.
Before Rivals came out, everybody was like, I'll play with you. And then like maybe a couple people played with me once or twice, but then for 4 months I've been basically depressed because I really wanted to play Rivals and nobody would play with me. And you chose to play it and not even bother to be like, hey, Ben.
Dude, I played for like an hour and a half in like the middle of the day before my grandma's wedding.
Still disgusting to me.
I know.
That's all we got for the show. We appreciate everybody for hanging out. As we mentioned at the top of the show, don't forget to sign up on Patreon at patreon.com/handsomephantom. And of course, join the Discord at handsomephantom.com/Discord. We appreciate having you all here. We appreciate everybody here who hangs out with us live every Tuesday night. We appreciate Hulk Hogan for always dropping us a $5 at the beginning of the show. I like that little tradition that started now. It has to stay. Sorry. That's it. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Appreciate it. Good night.
Bye.